The synovial joints are connections between the synovial joints. The synovial joints are connections between skeletal components where the elements involved are separated by a narrow articular cavity. We also call it diarthrosis. It is the most differentiated form of synostosis. Most synovial joints are flexible and stable. In such a joint, the contiguous bony surfaces are covered with articular cartilage and connected by a surrounding tube-like capsule of dense fibrous tissue. Most synovial joints within the skeletal system are freely movable normally. The actual range of movements depending on the requirements for function and stability. From this X-ray picture, we can write this is a knee joint. This is a knee joint. But there is a narrow articular cavity, between the two bones. Now, in a synovial joint, the articulating bones are connected by a soft capsule, but their opposite surfaces are separated by a narrow articular cavity. This is the cavity. This is a cavity between the bones. In addition to connecting an articular cavity, these joints have a number of characteristic features. The synovial joints include the essential structures of the synovial joints. This content is very important, and you should remember it. Accessory structures of the synovial joints. This is also very important. 关节的基本结构，关节的辅助结构 are the essential structures and accessory structures of the synovial joints. Is very important. Now, the essential structures of the synovial joints include the articular surface, 关节面 articular capsule, 关节囊 articular cavity, 关节腔 we look at the articular surface. Each joint has two articular surfaces at least. Maybe 3 articular surfaces. Each joint has 2 articular surfaces. One articular surface is convex. We call it articular head. And another articular surface is concave. We call it articular fossa. A layer of cartilage, usually hyaline cartilage, covers articulating surfaces of the skeletal elements. In other words, bony surfaces do not normally contact one another directly. As a consequence, when these joints are viewed in normal radiographs, a wide gap seems to separate the adjacent bones, because the cartilage that covers the articular surfaces is more transparent to X-rays than bone. From this work, we can learn the two articular surface is covered by articular cartilage, and in most joints is hyaline cartilage. And the cartilage covers the articulating surfaces more transparent to X-rays than bone. The features of the cartilage is it is very smooth. The function of this articular cartilage, is very important. It can decrease the friction and absorb the shake occurred between the articular surfaces. And this function is very important. It can absorb the shake and also can decrease the friction. Is free of blood vessels and nerves. Its nourishment is largely dependent on synovial fluid. This word is very important. You remember it. Its nourishment is largely dependent on synovial fluid. Once being damaged, articular cartilage does not regenerate. The left picture is normal, but from this picture we can learn it is damaged. The cartilage, the articular cartilage is damaged. Articular capsule. A fibrous connective tissue membrane surrounding the joint. Because the articular surface, there is a narrow articular cavity separate the articular surface. So there is a fibrous connective tissue membrane surrounding the joint. So a second characteristic feature of synovial joints is the presence of a joint capsule consisting of an inner synovial membrane and an outer fibrous membrane. The articular capsule can be divided into the fibrous membrane and outer layers. 纤维膜. From this picture, we can learn that this is fibrous membrane. This is fibrous membrane. And the inner line is a synovial membrane. Synovial membrane. An outer fibrous membrane and an inner synovial membrane formed by dense connective tissue and surrounds and stabilize the joint. A layer of very thin, the synovial membrane attached to the margins of the joint surfaces as an interface between the cartilage and the bone, and includes the articular cavity. The synovial membrane is highly vascular and produces synovial fluid. The synovial membrane can produce synovial fluid, which percolates into the articular cavity and lubricates the articulating surfaces. So the function of the synovial membrane is very important. It can produce synovial fluid, and also the synovial fluid can lubricate the articulating surfaces. The synovial membrane the synovial membrane attaches to the margins of the joint surfaces at the interface between the cartilage and bone and includes the articular cavity. The synovial membrane is highly vascular and produces synovial fluid, which percolates into the articular cavity and lubricates the articulating surfaces. Closed sacs of synovial membrane also occur outside joints, where they form the synovial bursa or tender sheaths. Bursa often intervene between structures such as tendons and bone, tendons and joints, or skin and bone. Reduce the friction of one structure moving over the other. Tendon shears surround tendons and also reduce friction. The articular cavity. A closed cavity formed by the synovial membrane and the articular cartilage. It contains a small amount of synovial fluid and the negative pressure in it. This feature of the cavity is very important. We remember it. It contains a small amount of synovial fluid and the negative pressure in it. This feature is very important. The function of this feature is to keep the stability of the joint.